So welcome back to another AI Journal Live. Really excited today to welcome Trinity and David from Liquid Intelligence onto the show. We've got a real exciting conversation lined up today where we're going to be looking at all sorts of areas which are impacting the world today. And we're going to be looking at topics such as how can humans and AI work together. We're going to be looking at what the developments are in the world of AI and development practices for how businesses can leverage these kind of technologies and leverage the opportunities that are in front of us today. But before I go into all these exciting conversations, David and Trinity, I'd love to welcome you both. And if we could, please, what people love to have is an overview of who you are, what it is you do, what's your story, and what's your passion. So, David, I'd love to start with you, please. And then Trinity, would love to get the same from you, a bit of your story, your background, your passion, please. David.
Great. Well, thank you and welcome to the show. I had worked for many years at MIT and had started in the artificial intelligence lab for decades, actually, as a scientist there. And I worked in the robotics group with the vision team, particularly trying to understand how to pick up, manipulate, and use robots in the real world. And one of the challenges was trying to identify and manipulate objects. Yeah. And at one point, I thought, we spend a lot of time and effort using vision systems to try to extract features and recognize an object. And I thought, well, hold on, what objects are we actually manipulating? And, I realized that we're manipulating objects that we built, right? So we built the robot and we built the objects. Why don't we simply have the objects tell the robot what it is? So rather than having a smart robot in a very dumb world, you have a semi-smart world and a slightly smarter robot. And the idea was to put radio frequency tags, like the ones that you might have for theft detection, a multi-bit tag on the objects, connect that information to the internet, connect the robot to the internet, and then you have a smart world.
Yeah.
So the idea of networking intelligent things. In any case, literally in the morning, I had that idea. And then by the afternoon, I thought, well, forget the robots for a minute. If I can have those things talk to the robot, I can have those things talk to the checkout counter. Yeah. And we can revolutionize shopping and checkout and inventory. So I began to really circulate that idea and cold called a number of companies and finally got a lot of interest from Procter & Gamble, Gillette, and Uniform Code Council, which launched the Auto ID Center at MIT to bring Internet of Things to reality. So the idea is networking smart things is kind of where we're going and what we're doing now.
I love that. Trinity, what about you? That's a great story as well. Thank you for sharing, David.
Great story. Yeah, so I've always kind of been in the tech space, and right out of college, I co-founded a company called Wear and Share, and we were developing smart interactive mirrors for the retail experience. So we also had an incorporation with AI in that, and we really realized what a problem was in retail stores is that the highest sales conversion zone is the fitting room, yet there's no data about what people are trying on or any sort of kind of tie into the online world to that. And then you can get into, inventory management and things like that based on location, using AI to tell people what they look good in, what colors, things like that. So I started a business in that space and actually ended up leaving and joining the Liquid team because I really believe in what they're doing here. And, the AI and the things that we're working on goes far beyond just the retail space, which really excites me. So my role here in Liquid is definitely on the product and operations side. And yeah, I'm very excited to be here.
Yeah, it's really fascinating because I know when we met in person, came over and saw the amazing work that you and the team are doing with the mirrors and having that rollout and looking at how much it can impact a person's day to day. It really is makes you wonder what's possible for the future of tomorrow, right? So it's really exciting. And I guess I want to delve in a little bit, seeing we're on and I think it's a nice segue to what you were saying, Trinity and David, to really kicking off to understand the topics that we want to talk about today. So, David, first question for you. I'd love to know, you were kind of touching on it in your introduction, How do you see it today? Because it's a big talking point with what we're seeing in the media and what we're seeing with AI being talked about more and more and more. How can humans and AI work together to bring big benefits? Forget all the things that might put people off, but what is it, how we can work together in a productive, successful, and transformative way?
That's a great question, and I think the right question. There's always this antagonism between artificial intelligence and people, and the concept is, oh, it's going to take my jobs, or it's stupid. But the idea of having a collaboration using the best of both worlds makes a lot of sense in so many different ways. In the story earlier, I talked about networking things together, right? And I think our idea in Liquid is similar in artificial intelligence. You network the AIs together, right?
Yeah.
So the AIs all have certain capabilities and specialties. I think today, most people are focused on very massive, all-encompassing artificial intelligences that can answer any question. And there's there's a lot of value in that. But at the same time, just as with people, everybody has special skills.
Yeah.
And very few companies have just one person in them. Companies typically have a whole number of people and they're organized. So why don't we do the same thing with AIs? And then why don't we have those things network with human intelligence to get the best possible results, to have people empowered and using the best of what AI can give you?
Yeah, I love that. It's a great overview of how it can work together, and I think it's really important to have that interactive communication and seeing businesses have that digital HQ to be able to communicate these changes, because it's taught us a lot. So I'd love to know, Trin, coming to you and from David's great explanation, what is it that you would tell people that are arguing, and I'm hearing it all the time in the media, and it really annoys me, really winds me up. And I remember we were having a very similar conversation when I was with you in person, of saying that AI is taking jobs, when time and time again it's showing it's creating more jobs than it's taking by way more. I think the last time I saw it, it was 5 times the amount of jobs being created compared to the ones it's taking. And it's only increasing because it's enabling us to do more and more. And it's a real annoying situation or conversation, but it's one that needs to be addressed. So what would you tell people that argue AI is taking jobs?
Yeah, so Tom, to your point, it's enabling us to do more. So instead of looking at it like, oh my gosh, AI is going to take my job, it's really a tool for us to do our jobs more efficiently. And I have a little graphic here. So I know people, think that, AI is going to take their jobs, they're going to replace them. No, AI is just a tool. And if you look at this, you see the value of the AI market and the investment in the AI market is far beyond robotics. So if you look at those two things and think, okay, AI combined with robotics, can do the same functions as a human, robotics still has not gotten to the point of where AI is at. So AI is really a tool for us to do things more efficiently. So one real life example I can think of is I read an article in the New York Times recently, and it was a teacher talking about how she's letting her students use ChatGPT to help write articles, right? So instead of, making the students go through the process of writing an article from scratch, they use it to develop their outlines for the article. And then they can explore okay, ChatGPT, write me an article for this. They can explore the duality of the article. Is this a balanced argument? Why or why not? And they're actually incorporating it into the curriculum. And I think I actually saw somewhere else where there's a student that developed essentially a tool that can detect if something is written with ChatGPT or not. So we're seeing all these different ways of working and using AI as a tool, especially ChatGPT is all the buzz right now. But yeah, that's really my thoughts on it. It's not going to replace us. There's still a novel human experience. And we can really just use it to our advantage to be more efficient.
Yeah, I love that. And I just want to keep the stat because what you're saying, Trinity, I've seen it. I saw on the headlines, and I did a podcast with Kieran about what ChatGPT is unlocking. So the creativity aspect, whether it's looking at creating marketing campaigns, or looking at your copy, or looking at how to help you write music and how to get over that creative writer's block, or how to look at your strategy, or potentially where you're even up to like where you're spending money. But it's very important. And I'm not going to go down a long rope with this and go down a massive story, but it's very important for people to figure that it's something that people need to use, but not necessarily something that they need always to base their decisions off, to factualize and have a factual decision off the end of it, because it's something that can be leveraged and something that can be used and taken into consideration, but not something that should be determining if you 100% should make that decision, which I think is a very important point. And I really love how you've visualized that against AI and robotics, because it's a massive area. So I'd love to know, David, in terms of development and what you're doing with Liquid, what you both are doing and the team are doing, and the developments that I've been seeing, what's some of the biggest impediments of growth with the current development that we're seeing, with the current development practices we're seeing? Sorry, I'd love to know what your kind of thinking is, and what is it that you and the team at Liquid are doing specifically to be different?
Yeah, no, I love the question. And I mean, frankly, I'm really excited about where we're going and where the technology is going in general. I think I see parallels to the original development of the web, right? So rather than having one monolithic, all-inclusive knowledge store, it becomes distributed. So there's no reason we can't do the same thing for artificial intelligence, a internet of intelligence, if you will, or sort of a network of intelligent systems.
Yeah.
And so rather than focusing on a single AI that can do everything, which obviously is very challenging, it's quite a bit easier to focus on very domain-specific artificial intelligence that really drill down, that understand the domain, that understand how to interact with it, understand the people who are part of that domain, the vocabulary, the ways they interact, and then to network them together. So it's a network of intelligences. And of course, that network itself can be organized, right? It doesn't have to be all at the same level. They can have management in which an AI can actually effectively interact with other AIs as well as people to form this sort of smart network, if you will. So the exciting bit is I think we're at the nexus or turning point of a next, or inflection point of a next revolution of networked intelligence. So it's really exciting to be at the front end of that. And that's where I think AI is going and where it is today.
Yeah. And just to follow on from that, David, do you think there's any tools in particular that you're seeing, or any potential strategies for the future development of AI, and maybe in what you're working on at Liquid Intelligence?
Yeah, and that's a fair question. I mean, it's obviously easier to focus on a narrow AI and to have it perform well within a certain domain. And I think the trick for us going forward and for the industry is to figure out the best way to have these AIs collaborate, right?
Yeah.
In what language and what ways do they communicate with each other? Yeah. And how do they form teams? How do they share? Obviously security and is all wrapped up in that. What are the things that get shared? What do not get shared? How do people interact with that network? That's going to be the challenge.
Yeah. And then if I can just draw on that as well, and Trinity as well, I'd love to get, David, I'd love to get your viewpoint, and Trin, from your angle. But I'd love to know, how does that change with what you just mentioned, saying operating on customer data compared to operating or using, shall we say, customer data as well as general available data that might come through market research, or it might come through if you're subscribed to a research house. How do you see that change working? And do you think there's a one method fits all, or do you think there's areas you need to consider? What do you think, David and Trin?
That's a really interesting question as well. Obviously having your customer protected data is important. So it would be necessary for the AI to very quickly assimilate that information automatically, because it's going to be too onerous on the customer to hand create it for the AI. So the AI needs to be able to understand fully that unstructured language. Yeah. And at the same time, you have a vast resource of external, generally available data. Yeah. And so for the particular customer to be able to automatically ingest that customer data into that AI and then assimilate or integrate with generally available data to optimize it for that particular customer.
Yeah.
And I think too, it also helps create more of an unbiased data set, right?
Yeah.
Like, so a lot of AI is either just narrowly focused or trying to be everything to everyone. So this can really use a mix of different types of data sets.
Yeah, it's really important, and especially what you said there, Trin, to have it unbiased is such an important point, because obviously when you're dealing with customer views, or you're dealing with maybe, especially if you go into the governmental space or whatever it might be, making sure it really is just serving its cause is a big part of it. So, David, back to you and back to what we were saying around what it is that we're doing differently. Is there anyone that you've seen do what you and the team are doing, and what you've been implementing and what you've been changing? Obviously, the technologies we have, whether you're using neural nets or NLP or all the different things, or some form of machine learning, it's we're in a very explosive stage at the moment. I think the past 2 years have just been incredible, and what you're seeing come out, and ChatGPT has been icing on the cake for how quickly it's scaling, even though that's been around for, as we've said before, or the idea of it's been around for many years. Do you see, has anyone done what you're doing at the moment, or you've seen that's a model of what could potentially be used?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, frankly, I haven't seen this, at least in this form. I mean, there are certainly many people working on a plethora of very specific and very capable domain AI. And of course, we've seen a number work on these general purpose AI, but we haven't yet, I believe, seen this concept of sort of open networks of collaborative artificial intelligences. And that's kind of a new thing, a new area, which Liquid Intelligence is trying to explore and develop.
Yeah, love that. And Trin, maybe from what you've seen as well, I'd love to know what you think of. I remember how excited we were seeing it and getting a walkthrough and a demo. It was really fun to see. So what have you seen that's really exciting you, maybe that you haven't seen elsewhere? I know you've had a background in it, and what your personal interests are. How do you think it's different, or what brought you to what it's been today?
Absolutely. Well, I don't want to give up too much of our secret sauce, but definitely the development process has been what I'm most impressed with. I come from a background where we always use like kind of traditional machine learning type of technology, whereas here in Liquid, it's completely different and completely revolutionary, in my opinion. My biased opinion.
Yeah. I don't think it's biased. I think that's a passion for what you're doing and a passion for what you're building. And I mean, it really is. When I've seen it, to anyone watching and listening, it's a fascinating piece of kit, and how it just expands into all different areas I hadn't considered before, and the way it can collaborate with different areas. It really is something that I was telling the team that's it's very impressive to see it come into market. So Trent, and we got into a big conversation around this, David. I got into a conversation with you about it, and we were getting very passionate around what might work and what might not work. But Trin, I want to come to you first, and David, over to you. In terms of the user experience, I'd say it's one of the most important things. If you don't know how to use something, it's not going to be very applicable. And I that's why I'm a big fan of ChatGPT coming into everyone's light at the moment, or into everyone's way of working, because it's giving people a physical platform to try out and use on their own and make their own assumptions or make their own opinions on how it works. So what is the largest issue, would you say, with widespread adoption of AI? And what is it that you're doing to make people understand it and use it and help it and make it actually something that they can form their own opinion on and actually get their own view on it?
Yeah. So, I think, to your point, ChatGPT has really normalized AI and made it mainstream, right? Like ChatGPT is everywhere, not even just in the tech space, but even people who aren't in the tech space know about ChatGPT and are learning how to use it. And I think that is amazing, because before that, AI was kind of this abstract thing, and people or businesses didn't really know how to implement it in their everyday lives. And now this is really normalizing it, right? So I think one thing I looked at, I tried to make a Amazon Lex bot. You can build your own AI chat bot for your website or business or whatever. And me being a semi-technical person, I went in to try it, and it was like very difficult for me. Like even the education around it and the explanation on how to build the bot was like pretty difficult. And I'm like, this is not made for the average person to implement. Like, you need a technical person to implement this. So I think as far as a user experience goes, like making it so simple to implement, educating users, around how it's used. And then, with our mirror and the physical product, it's like bringing AI into everyday life in the physical form. And this mirror is a way to do that. So, yeah, as far as user experience goes, I think before ChatGPT, it's just been very complex and overly complicated.
Yeah. And David, what would you say then to follow on from Trin's great point? I mean, have you seen it in terms of helping with maybe what I still think there's a massive lack of, and I think there will be for years to come, lack of education on how and what AI can actually do and how it can actually get into your day-to-day life?
Yeah, actually, I do. But let me just comment on one thing that was mentioned a bit earlier, just as to kind of add a little bit to that. And that was I kept talking about the idea of networking AI, and we talked about different strategies, techniques, and Trinity's seen some of the techniques that we use, and some of the techniques that are industry. But I think one of the benefits of networking AI is you can use all of them, or different ones in combination. So as new technologies, grow, or old technologies get reinvented in artificial intelligence, be able to connect that with a larger network is so much easier, right, than trying to build it into an existing solution. So that was one comment. The second thing is, one of the things I've sort of noticed, and I've worked in many different industries, worked in healthcare, energy, legal, consumer products, and one of the things I've noticed is that within any industry, they become very narrowly focused on delivering a product or a service within their industry. So very myopic. But because it's myopic, it's very unique information, and it's very difficult to build a general purpose technology with that very unique information. You can do an okay job, but you can't do a great job. That's why there's people there. But one of our ideas is, if we can build a specialized domain-specific expert that can work with the human capability within the domain, that's where you can make this thing explode, because then that can grow within the industries and then across the industries. And then to get to your immediate question, which is, how to get people to be able to interact with this. Well, it's the same idea, right? If we're building tools to help us build an AI, and we have AIs that are very domain specific, well, you can take that domain specific AI and apply it to the building of AIs. So the idea of sort of AI-enabled AI construction, is one of the ideas that we're trying to bring to fruition.
Yeah, I love that. It's a really important point, and to really bring it into the day-to-day home and really help people understand it, which is what I think I was so attracted to what I was hearing you talk about it, and when I saw it in action as well. And Trent, I'd like to know, I know you've got a passion for it, I know you've got a way of thinking for it. What was it why the team and yourself and David and Trevor and everyone else involved starting with an in-home smart mirror? What is it that drove you to that being the idea that was going to make this solution and get over the problems that you'd seen in the marketplace?
So from a user standpoint, this is something that is really relatable to everyone, because it's like a lifestyle product, right? Like, it is your AI assistant for your everyday life, from your home health to your personal health, to your appliance health. All these different things combined that no one has really combined before in this environmental factor of your home is something so unique to every user. And we all live in homes, we all live in apartments, wherever it is, and it's really it's relatable. It's a portal into what the whole possibility of lifestyle AI could be.
Yeah, and I believe you got a name for the mirror, right? Is it called Atom?
It is Atom, yes.
Yeah. How did you come up with the name for Atom?
It is like the nucleus and the brain of the home, and we wanted to kind of personify it too. So Atom, you see the other AI assistants out there like Siri, and this is just ours. Liquid is Atom, essentially.
Yeah. I love it. Makes it much more personal and gives it a kind of story, and makes it, as you said, the digital home. And I always like the phrase at the moment, digital HQ. So having something like that for my home, I remember seeing it, I thought that'd be brilliant. So it's great that you've given it a name and brought it to stage. So I love that.
Yeah.
But yeah, David, Trin, I've really appreciated you coming on and talking through and looking what we're going to be doing, or what you and the team are doing, sorry. And maybe if I can, just from each of you, get a quick overview and a sneak peek to everyone wondering where they can perhaps get their hands on one of these smart mirrors. What's next for Liquid Intelligence? Trin, from you first, and then David from maybe your technical background. Would love to know.
Yeah, so at the end of this year, we will be rolling out our pilot with Richland Building Partners here in Nashville, Tennessee, which is really exciting. So we'll have all of our live units, real users, all of that. But as far as like the pilot goes, we are partnering with a builder. But if you personally want to get on the wait list for a mirror, you can go to liquidintelligence.ai/mirror and find that on our website and sign up. Eventually, this may be released as a consumer product. So stay tuned.
I love it. And David, maybe what about you? What's most exciting for everything you're doing at Liquid Intelligence over the course of this year, and what you've got planned ahead at the moment?
Oh, absolutely. I think it's super exciting. I mean, the mirror is a very tangible portal to this network of intelligence I've been talking about. But we may start to build or think about different portals, right?
Yeah.
But the idea of being able to make this ubiquitous and make this sort of a systemic part of your life, to be able to interact with it in very natural and easy ways. I mean, that's the exciting bit. So we have, excitement of developing this intelligent network and very novel and very easy to use portals into this network.
No, I love it. It's very exciting. I mean, when I first heard about it, when I was first being introduced to it, to anyone listening, it's something that can really have the power to change a lot of decisions and just integrate into your life to make it a lot smoother, a lot better, and especially the technology behind it, seeing what you're going to be moving into. It was very exciting to see, and started becoming a very personal interest of mine as well, as I'm sure we discussed in person. But I'm very excited for what you've got next. I'm really going to be on the sideline supporting what you and the team are doing. And to anyone watching and following this recording or joining us live, encourage you to go check out what the team are doing. And as Trinity said, make sure you sign up to the wait list and to get involved and to watch the developments of what Liquid Intelligence and their current partners are doing, because it's a very exciting angle. And the team, Trinity and David, who are here today, are definitely at the forefront of what this technology is going to be able to do and how it's going to improve the lives of our day-to-day. So very exciting. And Trin and David, I just want to say a massive thank you for joining us today. And I'm really looking forward to hopefully doing something along the lines of this very soon again, and bring you back in front of the AI Journal audience. But for now, I just want to say a massive thank you and appreciate you joining.
Awesome. Thanks for having us, Tom.
Yeah, thank you very much, Tom. That's great.